Eric Dickerson didn't just speak out. He sounded the alarm. When Shedeur Sanders was scratched from the Browns roster last minute with supposed back injury, Dickerson called it what was a lie. Backed by insider sources and years of experience navigating the NFL's political underbelly, Dickerson accused Kevin Stefanski and the Browns brass of deliberately sidelining Sanders not because of health concerns, but to stifle his momentum. The fact that Bailey Zapp, a practice squad player, leapfrogged Sanders only deepened the outrage. For Dickerson, this wasn't about one game. It was about a league culture that punishes players for who they're related to and what they represent.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
This wasn't a coaching misstep. It was a calculated suppression of talent. Dickerson drew a direct line from Sanders' sidelining to the NFL's legacy of marginalizing outspoken black athletes. With references to Colin Kaepernick, Eric Reid, and Cam Newton, he exposed how politics and personal vendettas still shape roster decisions. Sanders' connection to Deion Sanders made him a target, not a prospect. The message was clear. Influence and identity can still be used against you in the NFL. It was supposed to be another shot for Shedeur Sanders to prove what he's made of. Another Sunday where the rookie quarterback could shut up the doubters and give Browns fans something to actually believe in. But instead of walking onto the field against the Patriots, Shedeur was quietly benched, supposedly due to a back injury. No warning, no concern from practice, no build-up. Just out. And that's when Hall of Fame legend Eric Dickerson dropped the bomb. According to Dickerson, that injury never existed. He says it was all fabricated, a cover story to keep Shedeur out of the game. Not for safety, not for recovery, but because certain people in the Browns organization didn't want him to play. And if you think that sounds wild, Dickerson says this isn't just about Shedeur. It's part of a broader campaign across the NFL to undercut players connected to Deion Sanders. You know, his dad, the outspoken, swagger-filled legend who spent the last few years shaking up football culture. Dickerson didn't pull this out of nowhere. He says he's got inside sources from within the league, people who know what's happened behind closed doors, and they're all saying the same thing. Shedeur was blackballed, his injury was staged, and Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski was right at the center of it. Let's rewind. Shedeur Sanders didn't come into the NFL quietly. His name, his performance at Colorado, his confidence, and of course his dad, all of it made noise. And maybe that was the problem. Teams don't always love quarterbacks with a spotlight before they've even thrown a pass, especially when they're tied to someone like Deion, who's unapologetically vocal, proud, and disruptive to the old boys club. Still, Shedeur had the talent. NFL scouts agreed on that. But somehow, he slipped to the 5th round of the draft. 5th, that alone raised eyebrows. And now, after barely getting a shot on the field, he's suddenly labeled injured the moment the Browns need a quarterback with actual potential? Eric Dickerson wasn't having it. He called it out, plain and direct. He said what a lot of fans were already thinking, but were too afraid to say out loud, that this wasn't just poor coaching or bad luck. It was a calculated move. And when you look at the details, it's hard to argue otherwise. Let's talk timing. The Browns only announced Shedeur's back injury right before the game. No mention of it during practice. No signs during the week. No reports of soreness. In fact, he was seen fully participating in warm-ups before the game, stretching, throwing, moving like someone who was game day ready, not like someone nursing a serious enough issue to warrant a full benching. Meanwhile, the Browns trotted out Dylan Gabriel, who struggled, and when the offense looked flat, confused, and out of sync, Stefanski didn't budge. No pivot to Shedeur. No second look. They even had Bailey Zapp, a practice squad player, listed higher in the rotation. Zapp over Sanders. That wasn't a football decision. That was a political one. Shedeur himself later admitted that the decision wasn't his. He didn't sit himself out. He didn't feel like he couldn't go. He was ready. The organization made that call, and then used a phony injury as the excuse. And that's what Dickerson latched on to. He laid it out. The Browns weren't protecting Shedeur. They were sidelining him, deliberately, and not because of performance, Because of politics. Because letting Shedeur shine would have created a whole different conversation. One they clearly didn't want. And here's where it gets darker. This isn't just about one game. According to Dickerson, this is part of a long-standing pattern in the NFL. A pattern where outspoken black athletes, or those tied to polarizing figures, get systematically pushed to the margins. Colin Kaepernick, Cam Newton, Eric Reed. We've seen this playbook before. Athletes with talent, visibility, and a voice suddenly finding themselves injured, not a good fit, or not ready. Sound familiar? It's not just disappointing, it's enraging. Because Shedeur is the kind of quarterback the Browns should be building around. Young, driven, calm under pressure, and already displaying leadership skills most veterans lack. But instead of supporting him, they've shoved him to the sidelines and wrapped the whole thing in a lie. And Dickerson's not alone in noticing this. Fans, analysts, even former players are raising eyebrows. The Browns are dead last in offense. Stefanski's seat is getting warmer every week. And yet, instead of trying something new, giving the rookie with actual upside a chance, they double down on mediocrity and protect a system that's clearly broken. Why? Because admitting that Shedeur could turn things around would mean admitting they were wrong. It would mean giving credit to Deion Sanders. And some people in NFL circles hate that idea. Deion has never played the political game. He speaks his mind, uplifts his players, and refuses to downplay his identity. That rubs people the wrong way. And his son? Shedeur carries that same energy. Calm, focused, confident. Not just another system guy. Not just another draft pick willing to blend into background. And that's threatening to a league that still values compliance over charisma, especially from black quarterbacks. So instead of celebrating what Shedeur brings, they twist it. They call it arrogance. They whisper about attitude. They leak narratives to justify sidelining him. And when the spotlight gets too hot, they fake a back injury and move on like it never happened. Dickerson isn't having that. He's using his platform to blast the hypocrisy, to call out the way teams manipulate narratives, protect their egos, and punish players who don't fit the mold. And he's demanding accountability, not just from the Browns, but from the league as a whole. Because what happened to Shedeur isn't just unfair, it's deliberate. And yet, through all of this, Shedeur has stayed poised. He hasn't lashed out. He hasn't fed the media storm. He's focused on the work. He's leaned on faith, on patience, on development. And that maturity, that quiet strength, might be the biggest threat of all. Because the truth is, the NFL can't suppress talent forever. You can only fake injuries and rig rotations for so long. Eventually, the pressure cracks. Eventually, fans start asking real questions. And eventually, players like Shedeur break through, whether that's in Cleveland or somewhere else. And when that moment comes, when the politics fade and the spotlight finally shifts to performance, that's when the league will have to face what it tried to bury. That a young black quarterback with real vision, real leadership, and a name the league couldn't control was right there all along, held back not by ability, but by fear. So the next time you hear about an injury that shows up out of nowhere or a rookie being not ready, ask yourself, is that really the whole story? Or is there something else going on behind the scenes? Because according to Eric Dickerson, the truth about Shedeur Sanders isn't hidden in medical records. It's buried in power plays, egos, and a league still afraid of players who won't stay in line. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Was Shedeur actually injured, or was this a cover-up? Should Stefanski be held accountable? And is the NFL still playing games with players who speak out? If you're tired of the politics and just want to see talent thrive, hit that like button, share this video, and make sure you're subscribed for more breakdowns of the drama they don't want you talking about. Let's be clear, this wasn't some random hot take shouted from the bleachers. This was Eric Dickerson, a Hall of Fame legend with decades of NFL credibility, calling out an active coach and team for what he claims was a calculated act of sabotage. And he didn't mince words. According to Dickerson, the NFL has a problem, not a new one, a problem that's been swept under the rug and rebranded over and over again. The kind of problem that only comes to light when someone with nothing left to lose finally says what everyone else is afraid to. This was a direct hit. Dickerson didn't just throw shade. He lit the whole building on fire. And you know what makes it worse? The Browns didn't exactly scramble to clear things up. There was no press conference, no medical report, no real explanation for the timing of Shedeur's injury. Just a quiet decision that conveniently kept their most high-profile rookie off the field. And then business as usual. If Shedeur had looked hurt, limped off in practice, even wins during warm-ups, maybe there'd be something to work with. But instead, what people saw was a healthy quarterback, dressed out, throwing on the sidelines and looking like he was ready. Fans noticed. Analysts noticed. The timing was so off it practically begged for speculation. And that's where Dickerson came in. He wasn't guessing. He said it straight up. This wasn't a coincidence. This was punishment. A warning shot to Deion Sanders and anyone else who dares to disrupt the way things have always been done. You want to be vocal? You want to speak up for players? You want to be a father and a force in the media? Cool. But the league still controls the gate. And they'll close it on your son without blinking. And that's where things start to feel familiar, doesn't it? Colin Kaepernick, Eric Reed, Cam Newton. Athletes who were too bold, too proud, too independent. Athletes who dared to use their voice and paid the price with silence. Exclusion, injury reports, narrative spin. Suddenly, they're not team players. They're a distraction. It's never about talent. It's always about control. And now here's Shedeur Sanders, caught in the same cycle before he even gets a real shot. The Browns didn't just sideline a player. They sent a message. And Dickerson is calling them out for it. But the question is, why Shedeur? It's not just that he's Deion's son. It's that he's his own person, too. He carries himself with poise. He answers criticism without flinching. He doesn't play scared. And that terrifies people who expect rookies to be humble, quiet, and grateful just to be in the room. But Shedeur isn't here to wait his turn. He's here to earn it. And that's what they can't stand. Look at how the Browns have handled their quarterback situation. You've got a room full of struggling signal callers, a bottom-ranked offense, a desperate need for energy and innovation, and the one player who might actually bring that spark is iced out completely. It's almost impressive how obviously they try to pretend it made sense. You don't protect a healthy player by pretending he's hurt. You don't bench your most promising rookie and call it strategy. That's not coaching. That's politics. And when the public started asking questions, the silence was deafening. Stefanski didn't explain. The front office didn't clarify. Everyone just moved on like Shedeur's absence was routine. But it wasn't, not by a long shot. And Shedeur? He didn't panic. He didn't clap back. He posted a quiet message about trusting the process and stayed locked in. That's what makes this even more frustrating. You have a young player showing maturity beyond his years, not feeding into drama, staying ready. And the organization still treats him like a liability. Dickerson called it for what it was. Disrespect. And not just to Shedeur, but to every player who's been gaslit by the system. Every guy who's had their story twisted, their health faked, their reputation undermined just to protect the image of a team or the ego of a coach. And if you think this is just one team's mess, think again. Dickerson made it clear this isn't isolated. This is systemic. It's a quiet, calculated way the league keeps control. If you challenge authority, if you're tied to someone who does, if you step out of line, you get buried. Maybe not with words, but with decisions, mysterious injuries, coaching choices, media leaks. And now the Browns are trying to play the same game, except they didn't count on people paying attention. Because fans aren't stupid. They know what they saw. They saw Shedeur ready to go, suited up and warming up. They saw an offense in crisis. They saw a chance for a fresh start. And they saw it ignored. And they've seen this play out before. So the question becomes, what now? Because Stefanski isn't exactly inspiring confidence. The offense is struggling. The fan base is restless. And this scandal, even if it's being ignored by official channels, is catching fire in the court of public opinion. Dickerson's words hit because they're not coming from a blogger or a beat reporter. They're coming from a respected veteran who knows how the league operates and isn't afraid to blow the whistle. And now the Browns are on the clock. Do they double down and keep Shedeur sidelined? Or do they admit they've been more concerned with internal politics than actually winning games? Either way, the damage is done. The trust is broken. And Shedeur's future in Cleveland? Looking shakier by the day. But here's the twist. This might be the best thing that ever happened to him. Because sometimes getting blackballed just proves how much power you actually have. It means they see you as a threat. And Shedeur? He's a threat to every stale, outdated structure that still exists in the NFL. He's young, talented, composed, connected, and unapologetically himself. You can only suppress that kind of potential for so long before it bursts through somewhere else. Maybe it's not Cleveland. Maybe it's another team, another coach, another system that isn't scared of what Shedeur represents. Because the worst-kept secret in this league is that performance isn't always what gets you benched or promoted. Politics runs deep. Image management matters more than innovation. And athletes like Shedeur are caught in the crosshairs of a league that still wants them to know their place. But that era is fading. Slowly. Painfully. But it is fading. And Eric Dickerson isn't just speaking for Shedeur. He's speaking for every player who got the rug pulled out from under them before they ever got a chance. Every player who was injured on paper, but ready to play in reality. Every rookie who sat while others failed because someone in a suit decided they were too bold, too loud, too different. Shedeur's story isn't over. Not even close. If anything, this might be the moment that defines his career. Not because he played, but because he didn't. Because he wasn't allowed to. And because the whole world noticed. The NFL has always had a reputation problem when it comes to race and power. But moments like this expose just how layered and deliberate the machine can be. Because it's not loud. It's not overt. It's not someone saying, you don't belong here. It's subtle, controlled, sanitized, like quietly marking back injury on a game report and hoping no one asks questions. But we're asking questions now, because it doesn't add up. How does a healthy quarterback, who by all accounts have been practicing at full speed, wake up on game day and suddenly can't go? How does a team that's starving for offensive momentum refuse to even try the rookie with the highest upside? How do you call that strategy when your offense ranks dead last? This isn't strategy. It's sabotage. And when Eric Dickerson speaks on it, you pay attention. Because Dickerson has nothing to gain by throwing Stefanski or the Browns under the bus. He's not clout chasing. He's not building a media career on hot takes. He's telling you what he knows from inside the league. From years of seeing this pattern play out, watching talented black players with voice and presence get boxed out of their own careers. And what makes Shedeur different is also what makes him dangerous to the system. He's not just another draft pick hoping for a chance. He's already famous. He already has a following. He's got media savvy, support from legends, and more leverage than most rookies will ever touch. That terrifies the gatekeepers. If Shedeur plays and dominates, the Browns lose their narrative. Stefanski loses his grip on the locker room. The front office has to explain why they didn't back the guy who's clearly the best option. But if he doesn't play, if they can control perception, label him as injured, not quite ready, raw, they can delay the reckoning. They can protect themselves for one more week. Maybe two. It's cowardly, but it's calculated. And Dickerson wasn't just pointing fingers. He was dropping receipts. According to his sources, this was no injury. This was a decision made days in advance, dressed up as a medical concern to avoid blowback. Because heaven forbid a head coach just admit he doesn't want Deion Sanders' kid playing quarterback for his team. That would be too honest. Instead, we get this cowardly dance. Hide behind a vague report. Hope the media doesn't dig too hard. Let the rookie sit there in uniform, warming up for a game he knows he's not going to play in. That's not just disrespectful. That's humiliating. But Shedeur handled it like a pro. He didn't take the bait. He didn't start tweeting. He didn't go on Instagram Live or rant in a post-game interview. He stayed quiet, kept his composure, and kept his focus, which honestly makes the Browns look even worse. Because when the person you're trying to undermine keeps showing nothing but professionalism, it exposes just how petty your decision-making really is. It's not just about benching Shedeur. It's about protecting a failing infrastructure. The Browns are underperforming. Their quarterback carousel is spinning out of control, and instead of leaning into youth and upside, they're clinging to mediocrity. Because mediocrity is predictable, safe, easier to excuse. But the fans see it. They're not blind. They know talent when they see it. And right now, they're watching a team actively avoid the one guy who could actually change the game. Not because he isn't ready, but because they aren't ready for him. And let's not ignore the Deion factor. Because whether anyone wants to admit it or not, that name carries weight. Deion has been challenging NFL tradition from the moment he stepped into college coaching. He's flipped recruiting on its head. He's created media empires. He's dared to speak truth to power in a league that prefers its coaches humble and forgettable. Shedeur is a direct extension of that. And this is how the system responds. By cutting him down before he even gets a chance to rise. It's not new, but it is tired. Because this generation of players, they're not just here to play. They're here to build brands, control narratives, and call out the nonsense when it happens. And people like Dickerson are helping pull back the curtain. He's not just defending Shedeur. He's issuing a warning. The league's old tricks don't work like they used to. Social media exists. Players talk. Fans aren't waiting for press conferences to figure out what's going on. When something smells off, it is off, and people are going to call it out. So what now? Does Stefanski come clean? Do the Browns let Shedeur compete? Or do they keep pretending this was just a fluke, hoping the noise dies down? Whatever they do, one thing is clear. This story isn't going away. Shedeur isn't going away. And if they think keeping him off the field will keep him quiet, they've already lost. So let us know. Do you think Dickerson was right to call out Stefanski? Was Shedeur's injury just a convenient excuse? And should more legends be speaking out when they see this kind of injustice happening behind the scenes? Drop your thoughts below. Like this video if you're done with the politics. And hit subscribe so you don't miss the next meltdown. Because in the NFL, the real drama never happens on the field. It's what they don't want you to see.